So, new information gotta come through. So tiring. You know, at the end of the day, I really wish I would be wrong with these prediction analysis. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm not. Not wrong at all. So, I gotta go through it. Gotta go through it. So once again, I don't have my nice microphone. But let's go ahead and get started here. Let's jump right into this. I usually don't do midday stuff, but it's a first for everything. So, turn off Fruity Loops. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into this. So it looks like Mr. Roland Martin is once again still not doing anything so far as highlighting the struggle of his people. And it's funny because, and I have to apologize because the last time I was having a conversation about the subject, I didn't actually have a conversation that actually included black people, descendants of American slaves in my vernacular. So I need to apologize for that. One second, guys. Let me see if it's now going to show. There we go. And so a large amount of people, well, not a large amount of people, because YouTube is now silencing my content, but it's all gravy. But a person was like, "Well, isn't Black Haitians your people?" I'm like, "No, they're not my people. Black Haitians are Black Haitians. My people are descendants of American slaves. But I do have solidarity with their struggle. I do have, support for their struggle for freedom and some sort of, you know, respectability. Um, but yeah, no, they're not my people. But anyways, so we're gonna go here to once again show that Mr. Roland Martin is ignoring his own people, right? So it's funny how he claims Haitian whenever it's convenient, but when it's crucial for him to have that lineage to Haitian so that he can highlight their struggle, he doesn't do so. And then the question has to arise as he tries to take cover under descendants of American slaves, can he truly represent our issues if he can't represent the issues of the other part of his people, right? It's one thing if you have Haitian descent and you really don't want to fuck with Haitians, then you could just keep it to yourself. You don't have to tell everybody that you descend from Haitians. You could just keep it to yourself. Nobody would know, and then move on, right? But no, Roland has to bring it up when it's convenient to him and ignore it when it's inconvenient. And I've already gone over why it's inconvenient, but I'll go over it again. So let's go ahead and hear from white people since Roland doesn't want to do his job as a journalist and cover his own people. Let's hear from white journalists about his people.
Chesky is in Del Rio, Texas again this morning. Morgan, good morning.
Yeah, Peter, good morning. And we are learning more about those plans from ICE. But at this moment, just about a quarter mile from where I'm standing underneath this international bridge separating Del Rio from Mexico, there is a group of, at last check, 13,700 men, women, and children, as you mentioned, from mostly Haiti, that are waiting to be processed by the Border Patrol, but there is simply not the staff to keep up here. Their numbers have swelled tremendously over the last several days. Just on Wednesday, the group numbered about 5,000, and now it has more than doubled. Officials fear that there may be more migrants headed this direction, numbered in the thousands, and that's why they are trying to get federal resources here as fast as possible to keep up. In the meantime, video of this place where they are staying underneath the bridge shows brutal conditions. Temperatures here hovering around 100 degrees. We know that food, water in short supply there, despite some being handed out, and there are only a few dozen restrooms for the crowd, numbering in the thousands. I had a chance to speak to the county sheriff here.
Let me stop once again. Roland Martin can run his goddamn mouth about white Latinos all day. He could talk about the conditions associated with white Latinos all day, twice on Sunday. But when it comes down to the conditions that his people, his Haitian people, are undergoing, right? And it's so beautifully poetic that they're using the Texas border to cross, which is the exact same border that many white Latinos use in order to cross the border, that they're using the Texas border to cross, and it therefore is the exact same situation as white Latinos, and Roland isn't covering this. Now, if these were white Latinos, if these were all Mexican, or if these were Chileans, or if this was all Costa Ricans, or you know what I'm saying, if these were white Latinos from other areas within Central America, Roland would be greenlit to cover this. But let's once again see the bullshit that he actually is covering after we finish letting white people tell us about black issues, since the black, quote unquote, black media, and this also includes um, Professor Black Truth and all these other little bastards, they're not bringing this shit up either. But Roland, these are his people. So it's a little bit more directed towards him.
On this ongoing situation, here's what he had to say.
But to be clear, since anonymous members, the Black Authority and or the bitch and night school teacher false, since we don't know who those anonymous people are, they could have Haitian descent. Who knows? We don't know who the fuck those people are. So to be fair, they could be also Haitian, and we wouldn't know it.
So right now, the people that are under that bridge, they're waiting for a process.
And they don't know when, if any, help could arrive.
You know, they might be here 3 or 4 days. They might be here 3 or 4 weeks.
And in internal documents reviewed by NBC News from ICE, we are learning they are planning to resume deportation flights as soon as possible. Some of those flights could be starting tomorrow. We know that each plane carries about 135 migrants. So when you have a group as large as this, it will take some time. They will not only be flown back to Haiti, but to also other U.S. processing centers to hopefully alleviate some of the overcrowding issues here. And we're also hearing people calling upon the government to not necessarily fly them back to Haiti because, of course, that country is still reeling from.
And that's the problem. See, this is the narrative that Roland Martin, the Haitian, should be promoting, right? So, what sense does it make from a humanitarian standpoint for you to fly already institutionally and historically impoverished Haitians who were in Central America to begin with, who may or may not have ties or direct family ties back in Haiti, to a country that underwent a large earthquake as well as a large amount of political destabilization with the current assassination of the current president, of the president of that country. All of those people technically have a very, 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 very good reason to obtain asylum in the United States. But Roland Martin, the black Haitian who has a black media company who claims to care about black issues, can't even get around to formulating that type of argument for his own fucking people. You see the problem there. Let's back that up.
Overcrowding issues here. And we're also hearing people calling upon the government to not necessarily fly them back to Haiti because, of course, that country is still reeling from that 7.2 magnitude earthquake that struck on August 14th. On top of the fact their president was assassinated just a few months ago, a period of incredible instability there. But as it stands right now,
I guess I'm psychic.
Larger, and they are waiting for more help to arrive on the Texas border. Peter?
All of it highlighting a real challenge for the Biden administration. Morgan Chesky in Del Rio, Texas. Morgan, thanks.
Again, we got to listen to white people about black issues. We got to listen to white people about black issues because Roland Martin doesn't actually care about his own fucking people. And if he doesn't care about his own fucking people, how do you truly square the notion that he cares about descendants of American slaves? Exactly. They just want to get the niggers out of the country. That's all it really comes down to. Let's just call it for what it is. Um, but let's go ahead and go to Roland Martin's channel and let's see if I'm a liar, and let's, allow for a possibility that Roland Martin, between the yesterday when I posted that other video and today, maybe he's brought up this issue. So let's go to his channel and figure out whether or not he's brought up this issue, right? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, this is weird. Let's go to his channel. Not trying to go to a playlist. Hold on. Let's go to his channel. Wow, YouTube is playing games. Now I can't go to his channel to see his videos in a reasonable manner. What the fuck is going on here? What the fuck is going on here? All right, Roland Martin. Let's go here. Let's go to the video. Go here. Wow, this is funny. This is funny. Wow, YouTube is protecting their tools real time. What kind of shit is this? What kind of shit is this? I can't see all the videos based off of the posting date. Now it's all a collage of playlists. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Wow, that's very, very convenient. Is everybody seeing this, or am I the only one seeing this type of shit? Because I went to this channel before. This is very interesting. Wow. Let's just for the people, just for the record, let's go to what his channel is supposed to look like. Let's go 0. Make sure that this thing is zoomed out. Let's go to this right here.
Bad as it's ever.
Let's go to his channel. Where is his channel? See, this is how his channel was looking normally, right? How you could just go to the channel and see all of the videos in a reasonable manner. But for some reason, it's stuck on a playlist now to where I can't actually see the videos in a reasonable manner. I mean, am I missing something? Well, it's nice to have YouTube help you out real time. It's so nice to have YouTube help you out real time. Y'all think I'm crazy, but y'all see what it's supposed to look like, and then now all of a sudden it looks like this, so I can't see the most recent video. So let's just go back here. And let's go back here. It's all gravy. It's to be expected. Let's go today. And then let's use their filter dates, and let's go to upload date. Right? So we can see everything that somebody has, at least a Roland Martin in there, what you call it. So I'm the latest. Here's his last video. Vax-proof beating, 3 Texas women arrested and beating in NYC. This is, again, a Tariq Nasheed tactic of stimulating your racism-induced generalized anxiety disorder, right? But in this particular case, they're trying to do it in a way that shames people into getting COVID-19 vaccinations. This shaming tactic is normal with boule people because they think they're better than you. Mayor Breed under fire for partying mass. Who cares about that? FDA backs COVID-19 boosters. Who cares? Okay. Okay, again, trying to boost up Maxine Waters. I mean, do you need further evidence? All right. This 18 hours ago, Roland Martin, Gerald Horn, deconstruct Isaiah Thomas, Jason Whitlock. Okay, some sports shit. Who cares? Um, Black Star Network. Who gives a fuck? Right? He wants to code himself. He's worse than Kamala, in my opinion. Kamala, in my opinion. Because he really coats himself in blackness, but really he can give a damn about black issues. And I'm gonna get into Irami Exposes in a second. So you see, this is weird how all of a sudden now this is how it's presented. You see all this weirdness going on here with this site now that I can't actually see what's really going on, as opposed to what I was able to see previously when I went into his channel. This is all YouTube playing around. Um, this is all YouTube playing around, but it's all gravy. It doesn't really matter. There's easier ways to search for those situations. So as you can see, Roland Martin has not brought up anything about Del Rio. Let's just go ahead and put in Del Rio just to verify, triple, quadruple verify. That was two. No, no, no. Let's go with upload date. Upload date. Yeah, there you go. The only titles with Roland Martin and Del Rio in it are videos from me, right? So Roland Martin has not put out anything as of what I can see, thanks to YouTube's playing around, about Del Rio situation with his Haitian people. He hasn't put out anything about that. So once again, you got to go, even though this person is claiming to be a member of the black media, you got to go to white people in order to see, you got to go to white people to get the news about black people, even though this person is claiming to be a Haitian. So let's just keep that in mind with him. Now we're going to switch gears over to him. I mean, what that means is, let me just go ahead and summarize that and put a button on it. If you're following Roland Martin in any way, shape, fashion, or form, even worse, if you're contributing money to him, you are very stupid. I want to basically make it very clear. You are very, very fucking stupid. You're not naive. You're not uninformed. No, you are stupid, right? This individual can't even represent a member of, a part of his own family, a part of his own lineage with his media company. There's a crisis with now 13,000 and rising migrants of his nationality, of his ethnicity, of his lineage that are now in Texas, in his home state of Texas. And he has not said not nan damn word about those Haitians. But if it came down to being white Latinos in the exact same situation, um, Roland Martin would turn into Rosie on the spot within a very short period of time. He would actually get a camera crew. He would be down there. He would be talking to those people, because that narrative of supporting white Latinos is a narrative that's very beneficial to the Democratic National Committee, or the DNC, right? It's very, very important to them to displace their dependency on black voters as much as possible, and their means of doing so is to get in white Latino voters that they hope will be impoverished and therefore go along with the policies of the DNC, so that they can get them on the poverty train like they've had us on the poverty train for such a long time, right? So if you're supporting Roland Martin in any way, shape, fashion, or form, if you're looking to him for any sort of truthful reporting, then you are very fucking stupid. I have to be very clear about that. The fact that he is silent on this is not a small matter, right? This is a large humanitarian crisis concerning his own people, and he's not using not nan one of, well, so far as what I can see. I'm not downloading no Black Star Network. So far as what I can see on YouTube, he's, well, actually, let me see if there's a Black Star Network component to this. Hold on one second. Let me see if there's a Black Star Network on YouTube. Just to be fair, let's see if this is actually on YouTube. So let's go here. Oh, okay, it is. Once again, it's still doing stupid shit. So, all right. I don't see anything on here, but of course, that's by design, right? It's all by design. Let me see if I can zoom out. The hell is going on here? Oh, there we go. That was weird. Let's go back and let's go to videos. All right. So bullshit HBCU bullshit. Bullshit Chris Christie bullshit bullshit. Mm, who gives a fuck if Atlanta's next mayor will be black? The question is whether or not they will have black agenda policies, and they won't because um, the south side of Atlanta is still a hellhole for most people, and they don't plan on changing that. They plan on walling off Buckhead as quickly as possible so the white people can be comfortable, but that's about it. Um, Same bullshit that's on Roland Martin Unfiltered is over here. Nothing really new. I don't see nothing on Del Rio over here. Now that we figured out what the hell is going on, let's go back over to Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right. Let's go to Roland Martin Unfiltered. There we go. And yeah, exactly what I saw earlier, which is nothing on Del Rio. So, if you're following Roland Martin and you're thinking that you're getting something that's black focused, you're not. You're getting a chocolate covered vanilla ice cream. That's what you're getting. Um, they're just force feeding you narratives that they want you to focus your political capital on, and that's about it. If they don't want you to focus your political capital on it, they just uh, bootlicks like Roland Martin just don't bring it up. And even when it comes down to his own people, he claims to be Haitian. Even when it comes down to his own people, he is okay with just not bringing up the narrative. So let's switch gears over to Irami Frumpong. We're gonna throw this in together because unfortunately Irami has exposed himself. And I was really holding out hope that he wasn't gonna do that. I was really holding out hope that he wasn't one of these little
America, my name is.
bootlicks for white supremacy, that he was actually, I'm saying, somebody who was just liberally confused or, bought into progressivism as a means to solving white supremacy and institutional racism, and was somebody who just needed to be, you know, led out of that level of thinking. But no, when we say grift in our community, when we say grift when it comes down to these things, unfortunately, Irami has put himself in a situation where he has said directly his financial plan with regards to um, what he plans on doing. And that's funny that there's no transcript. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to let this run so you can see the full context of the statements that he's making. But it's just kind of pathetic. It's kind of pathetic, but it's not surprising. But at the very least, Irami has told you directly what his multi-year plan is for these topics of black issues in the black community. He's told you, he's going to tell you in this video specifically what he plans on having over the next couple of years out of this funky academic moniker that he has on YouTube. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to hear it and go from there. So let him go ahead and speak. Unfortunately, since there's no transcript, I'm not gonna be able to jump around specifically to the statement. So I'm gonna let it run, and we'll get to it naturally.
I'm Yosef Frimpong. I come to you live every Thursday about this time. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the job ed economy, but I'm going to start with a few different stories just as people file in because I think it's important. And I'm trying to kind of work this out on my own. First things first, James Gandolfini is the guy who played Tony Soprano in The Sopranos. And there's a Soprano prequel movie coming out, which I think is, I saw the trailer, it looks pretty good. And it looks interesting. And so, James Gandolfini's son, Michael, is playing young Tony Soprano. And so I went to look at, the circumstances of Gandolfini's death death, and Gandolfini died at 51, a little bit too young. Now that I'm closer to 50 than I am to, a lot of other
I'm gonna do
things.
myself a favor,
Um,
and I'm gonna speed this up
I'm closer to
because
50 than I am to 30. So,
I just want to get to
yeah.
a specific part.
The
If you want to hear this yourself,
But he
go
was
to his
overweight,
channel. But let's speed this
so
up
I'm
so we can
hoping
get
that
to a
will.
specific part.
After this, I'll go eat some spinach and hope for the best. But the interesting thing about James Gandolfini's death, for at least our purposes here, are the circumstances of his will. Right? So he gives his assistant $200,000. He gives his friend $50,000. He gives his niece $500,000. Gives his other niece $500,000. Maybe he doesn't have any nephews. That's fine. He gives his godson $100,000. His friend $200,000, and another friend $50,000. And then of the rest, he's worth like millions and millions. Right? 30% goes to his sister. Another 30% goes to his sister, his other sister. 20% goes to his wife, and another 20% goes to his daughter. Right? And so what do you get from that distribution? No mention of his son. You know what his son gets? His clothes and his jewelry. So the guy's worth like millions upon millions of dollars, and the daughters get millions upon millions of dollars. He was worth about estimated $70 million. And so, but his son got his clothes and his jewelry. So what does that mean? His clothes and his jewelry. And I'm trying to get the exact. I'm looking at the screen. I'm going to get a screenshot of the exact number. I'll get it while I hit the opening. I just find that amusing. Not amusing, but just interesting. And now the son is playing Tony Soprano in the movie. So the idea is that the son will now get money for going to work, while the daughters will just get like cash. And we have to think about what that means. And maybe there's a deeper story, maybe there's a shallower story to what's going on. I just think the distribution is because like his daughter gets paid, his wife gets paid, daughter gets 20%, wife gets 20%, his sisters get paid. I don't know if he has any brothers. I can probably find that out. But his sisters all get 30% each, and his son only gets clothes and jewelry. So, we have a lot of things to say about sexism and patriarchy and things that are bad, but like there are perks to that kind of paternalism, where like you take care of the women in your life, and if you're a woman, it's nice to be taken care of. Right? So you have to ask yourself, I'm looking up if he has any brothers. We just know that he has at least two sisters, and the sisters are getting paid, or got paid. They got 30% of an estimated $70 million. So, I just want you to kind of just think about that. We have a lot of stories to tell about how all of this works, and not a lot of those stories are actually true because we don't talk about family wealth very much. That's going to be the crux of the main show I'm going to hit after the beat. But yeah, go ahead and look up James Gandolfini's
Blah, blah, blah.
Maybe it's appropriate. Maybe the son is going to make more off of being young Tony Soprano and living off his father's legacy and likeness than he will of like just a straight payout. But I think there's something kind of a deeper story about how money actually moves across family lines there than what I'm saying. And look, people ask me what I'm doing with this show, and I'll be honest. Like, with this show, I give you kind of a way to think about your life and political world every week. And if you're responsible, you go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, $50 a month for me to keep doing this. I give you two shows today, one earlier on arguments. And the idea is that I do this for a while as kind of like my side job. And then my kids are right now 8, 6, and 4. And I talk to them pretty much like I talk to you. So in 10 years, my 18-year-old's going to be able to do the analysis that I give to you every week. You're going to probably see her more and more on the channel.
There we go.
Funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, $50 a month. And what I'm saying. And look, people ask me what I'm doing with this show, and I'll be honest. Like, with this show, I give you kind of a way to think about your life and political world every week. And if you're responsible, you go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month for me to keep doing this. I give you two shows today, one earlier on arguments. And the idea is that I do this for a while. It's kind of like my side job. And then my kids are right now 8, 6, and 4. And I talk to them pretty much like I talk to you. So in 10 years, my 18-year-old's going to be able to do the quality of analysis that I give to you every week. You're going to probably see her more and more on the channel. And then when she's 22 or whatever, instead of waiting tables for summers, she's going to be your funky academic, because like I'm training her pretty well in how to do this, right? So I have three kids, right? So all three of them are going to get the quality of, like all three of them, I talk to them like I talk to you, so they're actually going to be well trained. And I think about this with respect to rearing them, insofar as like I'm going to encourage them to do drama. I'm going to encourage them to do speech and debate, because one of their side gigs when they get older, it might be on this channel, speaking to you. And so so I grow this audience, and then I bequeath it onto them, and this is going to be the family business. And I think that's kind of a responsible way to do the family business. So you should not only send this video out to all of your friends, but go and kick in $5, $15, $50 a month.
So you heard it directly from his mouth. What his goals are. His goals are, to I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to translate for descendants of American slaves. See, his goals are, hey, he sees a huge amount of worth in talking to Black people about their racism-induced generalized anxiety disorder, induced by ongoing racism and white supremacy within the United States. He feels as though nothing is going to change between now and 10 years from now. And so therefore, he feels as though it's very profitable, or could be very profitable, as a side gig for his children to step into his place and talk to you bastards and to you niggers and to you pieces of shit, you people who are affected by racism and white supremacy, um, and basically get money from you guys as a side hustle, not as a main hustle, not as a side gig, not as a main gig, as a side gig, as something that they do on the side, that they get the 10, 15, or $50 a month from you, that you're expected to provide them, right? So as you're living check to check, go ahead and give Irami Frumpong and his burgeoning family business, not advocacy. Not, hey, I'm out here advocating for you for a point. Not, hey, I'm advocating out here for the purposes of pushing forward legislation. Not, hey, I'm even I think he's in Macon. I don't even much know if he's even doing anything anymore for Macon politics or any sort, or no, Athens. I think he's in Athens. Um, is he doing anything locally for Athens people anymore? I mean, I don't know, right? This individual just told you with his own mouth what his plans are. Now, we talked about Tariq Nasheed. We talked about all these other people, but specifically Tariq Nasheed in terms of grifting. But to be honest and to be fair, had Tariq Nasheed said some shit like this, the whole entire quote unquote conscious community would have lit his ass on fire for saying some stupid shit like, hey, my goal is, what I'm saying, when all this is said and done, I want my children to take over this shit. That may be his plan. But for him to say some shit like, oh, well, my plan is to go ahead and bequeath this side hustle that I got going on with you guys. My goal is to bequeath this over to my children. You know what's missing there, Irami? Actual progress in the area of defeating white supremacy and institutional racism, right? Your side gig, your family business is based on this problem of white supremacy and institutional racism not getting better in the time period of your children growing up old enough to take over this side business. That's what you're basically saying. Like, I'm hoping that the same state of affairs for Black people remain, because that's the undergirding for this type of dialogue. There's no need for this type of dialogue if I'm pushing for reparations, for instance, for descendants of American slaves, and I have a goal for that to be accomplished within a finite time. In that case, it's not a side business or a side gig or family business. In that case, it's advocacy. Man, I have to say again, if you are contributing to Irami Frumpong, you are stupid as fuck as well. You are now stupid as fuck. He told you very clearly what his game and what his function and what his goal is for his business. This is not advocacy. His YouTube channel is not advocacy. He's not pushing for his finite legislation or a plethora of legislation. He is pushing only only, only for a side gig for his children, so that they don't have to bust tables in the future. They can come over here and spit some shit in the Black community associated with, again, stimulating your racism-induced generalized anxiety disorder, the same shit that Tariq Nasheed does, tingling that a little bit, and then basically getting off. Not really providing solutions, just trying to provide novel analysis points. That's all Irami Frumpong is actually doing. He's just creating novel analysis points that are policyless. They are devoid of any sort of policy points or policy positions. That's what the fuck he's doing. And I was holding out hope. I was holding out fucking hope. I was holding out hope. I really was. But there is no hope to be held out anymore. He said it with his own goddamn mouth. He said it with his own goddamn mouth. So at the end of the day, like I want to be clear about my goal and my mission. My goal and my mission is to try to push for the prioritization of reparations above all else, above all bullshit ass do for selferism narratives, right? And I don't give a fuck what, because I was on somebody else's show on YouTube, and they tried to trap me into some sort of bullshit. I think it was that Mr. Palmer little bastard, questionable heritage of descendancy of American slaves. He was trying to like, oh, you don't like do for selferism, but Minister Farrakhan, that's where that comes from. I don't give a fuck who it comes from. Do for selferism is fuck shit, and whoever came up with it is a part of that fuck shit. Okay, let me be 100% clear. Do for selferism is like saying to a man who had his legs and arms cut off, hey, you could do everything. You could play chess. You could do everything. You know, just go ahead and will yourself. No, bitch. I got actual problems here. I got actual goddamn problems here. We can't just ignore these goddamn problems. You know what I'm saying? And say that I could do everything that a person with arms and legs can do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I possibly can if I will myself. But let's talk about some prosthesis. Let's talk about some prosthesis here, right? Some prosthetics. Let's talk about some mechanical arms and mechanical legs. Let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Let's not talk about me just willing myself to do all these things that you claim I should be able to do based off of do for selferism, right? And I could go over, should I? I really don't want to go over to Kwame. I'm just going to bring him up because Kwame is still on that type of bullshit. Because his last little show that I saw, he was talking about something. Well, my neighbors, they're stocking up on ammunition and they're stocking up on guns and they're stocking up on this. Why aren't we able to do so? Why aren't we able to get this done? Why aren't we able to blah 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 blah? And I was writing in the comments, and I know his bastard ass was reading it. But I was writing in the comments, it could be the racial wealth gap, dummy. You live who knows what neighborhood you live in, but I'm assuming that your neighbors are some white people. I'm assuming that if you have money and if you're in an area of your town where there's a large amount of money, that you therefore by default live amongst a whole bunch of white people. It could be the fact that black people can't do the same thing that your neighbors are doing is because they have a racial wealth gap that needs to be corrected with reparations. Reparations. But a large amount of these dumbass people want to give you the narrative of do for selferism, even to its absolute extreme. And his fans are so ignorant politically that they don't understand that, oh, well, that's the reason why I can't necessarily do the same thing. That's the reason why his advice may not actually apply to me. Maybe I can't do the same thing that he does because I don't have the same amount of money that he does, right? And a large amount of these people in this grifter space, that's what they want to do. They want to buy you into either individual do for selferism or collectivist do for selferism. I would classify, for instance, Tariq Nasheed as a collectivist do for selferist, right? He's a person who is an incrementalist and a collectivist do for selferist. What that means is he again wants to stimulate your racism induced generalized anxiety disorder to prompt you to believe that consumerism is a form of activism. So yeah, you've been downtrodden by the white man. You've been downtrodden by the white man. You've been downtrodden by the white man. Give me some money so that we can go against that white man with this random act of consumerism. It's not really gonna do anything for y'all. This museum ain't really gonna help y'all out in any way, shape, fashion, or form. It's not going to help y'all out at all. It's going to help me out. It's going to help out my brand. It's going to help out my Q rating. It's going to help out. It's going to help out my my long term plans for my family. But it's not really going to help y'all out. It's going to help me out. But it's a way for y'all to give the white supremacist the black eye, right? And so that type of collectivist do for selferism, that type of televangelist donate now for you to get closer to God. type of trick and game is old in the black community. It's an old white supremacist trick. Um, and so it's very sad. I was holding out hope for Irami. I really was. I was holding out hope for Irami, but it's now official from his own goddamn mouth that all that he's doing is a side gig, and his goal is to give it over to his goddamn kids as a side hustle. And that's unfortunate, Irami. I mean, that really is unfortunate. And unfortunately for you, white people can see that. You may get a boost because a person like me is exposing you. You know what I'm saying? White supremacists may want to boost you up as a tool, right? I may need to go back to that. We'll see. I'm just tired of Kwame. He is so easy to figure out. He's a rich kid who got selected by white people, and now he's trying to tell black people what the fuck to do, right? Like, bitch, you got selected by a white man. That's who you got selected by. You got selected by a white man, and Michael Jordan co-signed it. That's what happened with you. And now all of a sudden, after millions and millions of dollars, basically erasing your life from any sort of ledgers of black impoverishment that is a normal narrative of black people in America. You're trying to tell black people what the fuck to do, whatever. But I was holding out hope for Irami. I was really holding out hope. But at the end of the day, that is a dead situation. And the fact that it's a dead situation is really pathetic because that means that there is really no mainstream person out here. If there is, please let me know. But there's no real mainstream person out here that's truly actually advocating for something concrete within a very specific timeline, right? They're advocating for shit, but they're not really advocating for it within a specific timeline, or they're just speaking about these issues, but they're not really, how do I put it? They're not really married to those issues, right? You have issues like you have people pushing policy like Roland Martin, right? But we've already seen that he's basically pushing policies as the black face of white people. He's the black face of the Biden administration, right? He's basically licking Biden's ass clean, as opposed to picking up any narratives that may even possibly be destructive to the administration's agenda, right? And that's actually evident by the fact that he's not bringing up anything about Del Rio, right? So you have limited examples of pushing policy, but those people who are pushing policy are only pushing policy on behalf of the DNC, right? They're pushing the white narrative and giving a black face to it. They're pushing the policy of, hey, you need to get vaccinated, and they're basically putting a condescending black person as the face of that condescending advice that they're providing the black community, right? And so I don't know where we go from here. I don't know what our I don't know what our goals are from here, but I don't see anybody who's actually advocating, at least on this platform, anything that is concrete, time limited, and beneficial to descendants of American slaves. And the fact that Irami came out and said that stupid shit, oh, this is a side gig for my kids. We broke, bitch. We don't have time to be giving out money to Tariq Nasheed's museum, which you were awkwardly silent on. It's funny how nobody brought up about this museum. You notice that? Minister Kev is in the building. I already know that you brought up about it. You know what I'm saying? You've been bringing up about it the whole entire goddamn time. I've already seen that. But it's funny how all these other people never brought up about the museum. Roland Martin never brought up about this museum. Let's see if Irami brought up about this museum. You see, I'm not really watching this shit like that. No. Um. Mm, mm, mm. Nope. He brought up nothing about Tariq Nasheed. It's so funny how they have like a silent agreement not to talk about each other. All right, let's see directly. I don't know why that's being brought up. I don't know why that's being brought up when I put in Tariq, considering it's not in the title. I don't really see anything that's actually directed towards that. Let me see something else. Because this was 4 weeks ago, so let me see something. Let's see if there's a back up. See if there's in here any reference to a Tariq. No. So I don't know why that's being brought up as a video when it's not really discussed. That's weird. But anyways, it's funny how these people don't really bring up anything about the other people, right? They don't bring up about the potential grift of other people. They sort of stay in their lane, and they all know that, hey, this is a profit. This is a profit making potential for us. We may even consider this not even an advocacy point, but just a business, like Irami has already said directly. And so we're not going to mess up our business by potentially, exposing others. We're just going to stay in our lane and keep doing what we're doing. That's pretty pathetic. That's pretty fucking pathetic. And that's really all I have to say, man. The pantheon of people who are basically just using black people as a point of money. It's almost like we're feeding on ourselves. It's really, 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 really pathetic. But that's all I have to say for right now. Let me see one more thing. Let me see whether or not there's any up-to-date reporting from white people on the Del Rio situation. Because outside of bringing up about Roland, it is a pretty big point of the way they treat black people, black immigrants, as opposed to the way they treat um, uh, white Latino immigrants. But let's hear from white people. And this is from the 19th. Okay. It's a large amount of goddamn people. Since Roland Martin ain't getting drone footage, let's go over here. I've already seen this. I don't know if he cut another commercial.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration has now started to chalk out a plan to send back the Haitian migrants who've gathered in Texas, and the Americans want to send them back to their homeland. According to reports, the Department of Homeland Security will begin deporting planes to send back the Haitian migrants. The plan is meant to relieve the migrant influx at the South Texas border town of Del Rio. It also aims to deter more Haitians from coming to the United States through illegal means. The Department of Homeland Security has said.
So you hear this from an international news source that they don't mind punishing these people. So they know that flying them back to their home country is punitive, but they don't give a damn. They're hoping to have a punitive effect, even up to and including these people possibly dying when they get back over to Haiti because of the lack of food, access to water, and all sorts of other bullshit in their country. They don't mind it being punitive because they want to discourage people from bringing their ass over to the United States.
In a statement that it moved nearly about 2,000 migrants out of Del Rio to other locations on Friday for processing and also possible removal from the United States. It also aims to bring in about 400 additional officers in the area to assist in the deportation process. Satellite images released on Saturday showed thousands of Haitians gathered under a bridge in Del Rio after suddenly crossing into the United States from Mexico. The number of migrants in Del Rio has surged in the past week, putting excessive pressure on the local government. Del Rio's Mayor Bruno Lozano has said that more than 14,000 Haitians are currently camping out under the bridge and are awaiting processing. Authorities have also ramped up efforts to provide adequate supplies to the migrants living under the bridge.
We have much more resources that are being delivered to the Del Rio area, including state and federal equipment, manpower, logistical support. We're going to be seeing even more buses loading up here and taking them to other stations.
Meanwhile, migrants who are seeking to escape poverty and hunger in their home country have said that they will not be deterred by U.S. plans to send them back.
Porque Deus não quer deportado. Se Deus deportado agora, Deus vai morrer Haiti, porque
See that?
não tem seguridade. Haiti.
Now, he's speaking Spanish because a large amount of Haitians can speak 4 languages or at least 3 languages. They can speak French, Haitian Creole, and obviously Spanish because they're attached to the country of the Dominican Republic, right? So he's speaking Spanish right now, but the translation is pretty accurate at the bottom, right? The question is, why isn't Roland Martin interviewing this individual? The question again is, why isn't Roland Martin interviewing this individual? We have to hear this from a slightly racist. I hear these little undertones from this host, a slightly racist host from an international news organization about this, and on a Johnny on the spot interview from somebody who's actually affected, who's saying that they will die if they're deported back to Haiti. All right? How come that's not being used on Black Star Network? How come that's not being used on Roland Martin Unfiltered? Just keep this in mind.
In their home country have said that they will not be deterred by U.S. plans to send them back.
Porque Deus não quer deportado. Se Deus deportado agora, Deus vai morrer Haiti, porque não tem seguridade. Haiti, só bandido. Tem guerra civil todo dia. Guerra civil com polícia, com bandido. Polícia está fazendo guerra civil com polícia. Muito complicado, porque não tem dirigir Haiti, não tem nada.
Beyond is now available in your country. Download the app now.
No, thank you, Mr. Racist Haitian. I mean, not Haitian, Asian. I'm not interested in your little program, but it's very funny, again, that your outlet was interviewing Haitians when Roland Martin, who's claimed to be a Haitian, has not done so yet. Boy, I tell you. Let's keep going. I want to keep going just a little bit further. At this point, we're doing the job that Roland ain't. We're doing the job that Roland ain't, at the very least. See what the BBC has to say. I'm expecting very racist undertones. Now, you see that they're saying migrants, but considering the actual devastation in Haiti, these are not really migrants. These are asylum seekers, right? That's what they really are. They're not migrants. They are asylum seekers. See, filming them like animals. Like they're animals on safari. Pathetic.
This is no longer sustainable, acceptable. The migrants are getting agitated. the Border Patrol can't keep up with feeding. During lunchtime, the facilities, the quality of life, the standard of living is all being stretched beyond its capabilities. This is unprecedented.
Where's the Red Cross?
This is beyond surreal.
Where's the Salvation Army?
Everybody in
Where's all these white charitable organizations where's the Clinton Foundation? Where's all these white NGOs that claim to want to help Haitians? Where are they? I'm gonna keep going. One, maybe two more. Two more.
So many migrants are taking desperate measures, fleeing the humanitarian crises in their respective homelands in hopes of a better life here in the United States. But that's leading to an overwhelming amount of asylum seekers, mostly Haitian right now at the border in Texas.
And the Biden administration is now taking steps to combat the crisis. Local Milberg is in Del Rio, Texas, with a firsthand look at the challenges that lie ahead.
Hello from Del Rio, Texas. We are now seeing the first signs of serious response to what has become probably almost 15,000 migrants, mostly Haitian migrants by now, on the international bridge. This checkpoint is now closed. No one past that but law enforcement, and we have seen so much law enforcement, federal, Texas state, and Del Rio local police, all now working to manage this crisis. Under guard, the woman and two babies had been to the hospital, another headed there. The encampment under the international bridge of mostly Haitian migrants on a desperate journey across the river border suddenly grew toward 15,000 this weekend and then suddenly slowed.
The flow has been stopped from coming across. I believe that Mexico is doing its part in helping deter the flow coming through.
Now, deter the flow, stop. When you say that, what you're probably talking about is Mexico instituting racist policies against those Haitians when they see them and throwing them in jail and doing all sorts of stupid shit in order to harass and assault those individuals to discourage them, quote unquote, from going through Mexico to get to that area. That's what you're actually talking about, right? They're not bringing that up here, right? But again, this would be the type of shit that Roland would get mired in if he actually did his job and covered the plight of his own people. But when they say that, you're talking about intimidation. You're talking about state-sanctioned intimidation.
So that's within the last probably 2 hours.
Texas State Police and the city of Del Rio poured resources into managing the exploding number of migrants in the last days. Del Rio residents increasingly worried that desperation will turn dangerous.
And we're the only border. I mean,
they go to white people.
Eagle Pass and Piedras Negras are 60 miles down the road, and there's nothing going on there. It's all here.
The majority of them were trying to get to Florida from here, but they actually had stopped all transportation.
Why here? Why now? This summer's earthquake, a president's assassination, economic and social disintegration in Haiti prompted the Biden administration to stop deportations there, and border agents say smugglers took advantage and misinformation spread.
I don't think these are smugglers.
For 5 years, some living in different countries. They've been in Chile, they've been in Brazil, they've been in Mexico.
So why now?
You know, I think that they got the message. They know it's an opportunity.
We are told come Sunday, likely the deportations begin in earnest.
Again, these are people who are normally in Chile, in Costa Rica, in other parts of Central and South America, but you're going to ship them back to Haiti. How the fuck is that a solution? You're going to ship them back to Haiti. They're normally in other countries in Central and South America, but you're going to ship them back to Haiti. All right.
On a deportation airlift. We have also seen white buses carrying people to go through whatever processing they might go to. We're also told that people are being taken from here to other checkpoints to go through that immigration processing. We don't know whether the people who have made the journey here thinking that they might get asylum have heard this news yet. I'm Glenna Milberg in Del Rio.
And when they find out that news, I suspect that there's going to be a huge amount of fuck that shit. I ain't going back to Haiti. Leave me the fuck alone. I suspect when news gets around that, hey, wait a minute, these motherfuckers are trying to ship us back to Haiti. I ain't got time for that type of shit, right? When that really comes around, I think there's going to be a large amount of people who are basically going to be like, we ain't going no goddamn where. We'll stay right the fuck here if we need to, right? So we have a crisis upon a crisis and a brewing crisis that's probably going to come up. These are not migrants. Again, these are asylum seekers. But these white people, these white Latinos and white people in the area of Del Rio, refuse to call these people that. When we have these DACA kids and all these other little bullshit ass white Latinos from Mexico talking about their DACA this and their DACA that, and they don't have the same background as those Haitian migrants, quote unquote, when they're talking about the legitimacy of them staying in the United States. They don't have the same sort of narrative that Haitians have. If those DACA kids have a reason to stay in the United States, then the Haitians have 20 times that, considering what the fuck that they would have to go back to when they go back to their own country. But again, you won't find this information from Roland Martin, because Roland Martin doesn't cover shit that has to do with his own people. He only covers shit about immigrants if they're white Latinos. He doesn't cover that if they're Haitian asylum seekers. He stays silent like a good little pet in that situation. He doesn't open his mouth for a peep or word in that situation. He keeps it closed. We're gonna keep on going. Let her finish her statement.
At the border, Local 10 News.
Smiling her ass off. Whatever. I'm gonna keep on going. Hold on. Let's order this by date. I thought I already did. All right, it is already ordered by date. So let's see here. Let's go to the last one. Let's go to the last one that I want to bring up. Yeah, what's their 6-step strategy?
The crisis at the border in Del Rio continues. Tens of thousands of migrants camping out under their international bridge. Del Rio's port of entry shut down to all travel.
And tonight, the federal government is trying desperately to get that situation under control. Today, the Department of Homeland Security releasing a 6-point strategy.
The Night Team's John Pombaraja breaks down the plan and how local leaders are dealing with the situation.
The small town of Del Rio has a population of around 35,000. Underneath their international bridge, they have nearly half of that, with 14,600 migrants waiting to be processed, with more on the way. A Valverde County commissioner says the makeshift camp is like walking through a third world country.
It is sad that our government has put not just our community, but these people in a situation like that. It is inexcusable. This is not humane.
Bo Nettleton got that first-hand look on Wednesday. Since, resources like water, towels, and portable toilets have been sent, but thousands more migrants have continued to arrive, forcing the federal government to shut down all travel through the Del Rio port of entry with little to no warning.
You have to start turning around, us.
This was the scene Friday. A line of cars, many of which were Mexican nationals who work in the U.S., stuck in Del Rio. On the other side, U.S. nationals stuck in Acuña, Mexico.
I don't blame just one side or the other. Both sides are at fault. We've been dealing with this for years and years and years. Both sides have had control. It is time to end this.
Today, Saturday, DHS sent out their 6-point plan for the crisis Del Rio is facing. Their 3 main points. 1, within the next 2 days, 400 agents will be sent to help process all the migrants, and more will be sent if needed. 2, Border Patrol will be relocating migrants to try and reduce the strain. Roughly 2,000 have already been moved. And 3, DHS will accelerate and increase removal flights.
I know that they're working on trying to get the mayor in Acuña to stop the influx into Acuña. We're not having that result here, so that's why you see what we have here today.
And County Commissioner Nettleton also told us the Del Rio port of entry will remain closed until all of those migrants are processed. For those stuck on either side, their only option right now is to go to another port of entry like Eagle Pass.
Now, let's go to what does Haiti look like right now? That's the other question. What does Haiti look like right now? This is pathetic if this is
So
really
we're joined
Fox
now by
News.
Senator Ben Cardin.
Okay.
He's a Democrat from Maryland and a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
Again, going to white media because Roland Martin can't do his job.
But Senator, before I get to sort of your wheelhouse there on all of this developments that are in your purview, I got to ask you about the situation down in South Texas with those Haitians, migrants, which is, look, I understand it's a series of bad choices where it comes to where do you take these folks? How do you process them? Do you believe these are refugees? Are you comfortable with sending them back to Haiti? Where else would you send them, I guess, would be the other question. And what's your sense of why we can't get our arms around this southern border issue?
Well, these people are desperate. The circumstances in Haiti are unacceptable. They're trying to survive. So, yes, I do think they are trying to have safety for their families and recognize in Haiti that it was not safe for them. I think we have to figure.
You know what that actually defines them as? Asylum seekers, not migrants, not refugees, asylum seekers.
Out a humanitarian answer to this. We do have a program known as temporary protective status that can be used in regards to the Haitians. So there are programs available, but it begs the broader question. We need immigration reform. We need immigration reform to deal with our southern border. We need to deal with people who are in this country that have been here for a long time as to their status and pathway to citizenship. We have to have controls on our border
See that?
to make sure that only the people that come in through the proper means are allowed to come into this country. We have to make sure we protect our national security, but
ultimately, all that bullshit that he's talking about only helps white Latinos. All of that shit doesn't help the Haitians that are the Haitian asylum seekers. He's using a current situation that affects those Haitian asylum seekers right now, and he's using it to push policy for immigration reform that only really helps white Latinos. But in the meantime, those Haitians are being transported back to Haiti. So all that he's saying is absolute bullshit because ultimately those people that he's talking about are being shipped back to a country that's a failed state at this point.
we also need to be the leader in dealing with humanitarian needs of people who are forced to leave their country, such as the Haitians.
Do you think we're only in this situation because we haven't passed immigration reform? I mean, it seems as if we could, we have to wait for immigration reform to figure out how to best handle.
Do we have to wait for immigration reform in order to pass a legislation like DACA? And couldn't that same process be used in order to bequeath asylum for these Haitians?
The border by DHS right now, that stands in the way?
I think the border issue, our southern border, has mushroomed over the years because of the failure of immigration reform, basic immigration reform. The problem with the Haitians is the result of the circumstances in Haiti. It's not as a result of our southern border. I recognize that. But we don't have the proper facilities, the proper policies, the proper procedures for handling people who are showing up at our border. That needs to be changed, and it's a fundamental problem with our immigration system.
Let me move to this dispute with France. And I want to ask you, how serious do you think this is? France seems to be...
That part I don't care about, the nuclear subs given over to racist Australia. Who cares? But again, you're constantly seeing this type of thing. Let's see. Al Jazeera. We got to go over to Al Jazeera.
Side right now of the Rio.
How come that's not you, Roland Martin? You're in Texas, sir.
Grande. That's the river that separates this country from the United States. And we're here because more than 10,000 people, most of them Haitian, have crossed this river to get to the United States and establish a sort of makeshift camp, wanting to be given asylum and to be able to stay in the United States.
Wow.
Many of them.
And they're actually doing the correct narrative. Look at Al Jazeera go.
Traveled through South and Central America to get to this point. They're fleeing poverty and years of political turmoil and natural disasters back home.
I'm really scared. You know why? Haiti had an earthquake. We were left with nothing. No home, no food, nothing. Almost all my family died. And if we don't go across, where are we going to go? We don't have a home. That's why we're searching for a better future.
Wow, that's a beautiful narrative. Unfortunately, Oh, I guess it's not a good enough narrative because they're not white. They're not white Latinos, so who cares about that narrative? But if that narrative was being said by a white Latino mother who had a white Latino child in her arms, that narrative would be taken on. Oh, we need to expand DACA. These people are desperate. We need to go ahead and get them in. They are asylum seekers, not migrants. Blah 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 blah. And Roland Martin would be his ass there, lickety split. But since it's black people, nah. And Al Jazeera is doing this news story, and they're actually doing it correctly. They're actually interviewing people directly. You got 13 to 14,000 people there now, and not now one of these other interviews that I actually did, except for one, which is again was international. Did they actually interview these people? It's funny how that fucking shit works.
The flow of Haitians crossing to the United States at this point suddenly turned into a torrent over the last week or two, but now it's slowed again. People have heard the plans from the US government to fly many in the camp back home.
We're scared that if we cross, they'll just deport us back to Haiti, and it will be worse for us.
Those we did see crossing the river were mainly bringing food and water to those on the other side. I asked this man how people were doing on the other side.
They're okay, but sad, because maybe tomorrow they'll be deported.
Conditions in the camp are reportedly tough, with not enough food, toilets or water, but we couldn't verify that. Earlier in the day, we tried to enter the camp via the front door in Texas. We just tried to get into the camp via the US entry, and we were denied there. We now just crossed the river and tried to get in through this entry.
But Ted Cruz can cut a commercial. Ted Cruz and that other guy can cut a commercial within feet of those people. But when you have actual journalists who actually may talk to those people, who actually may have a conversation with those people, no, you can't have those journalists get close to the people.
And we've just been denied by the border patrolmen that you can see behind me, who say that we're not allowed in. Other journalists said the same. The US authorities are blocking the media from talking to those inside. Meanwhile, they're faced with a problem that would test any administration. A makeshift shantytown suddenly springing up on their border with thousands desperate to stay. John Holman, Al Jazeera.
Wow, Al Jazeera is doing a better job at bringing up black issues than Roland Martin, and he's acclaimed, he is claimed to be a Haitian. That's crazy. That's just fucking crazy. I wish they would have did more reporting, but it seems like they didn't. But the reporting that they did do, at the very least, oh, there we go. Let's go to Al Jazeera again.
Desperation is growing in Tapachula. On Wednesday, hundreds of migrants, mainly from Haiti and Central America, took to the streets in protest.
I wonder what they're protesting.
They're frustrated over Mexican government policy that prevents them from leaving the city.
We just want to get out because we're not here to stay. We're just going through. We have no money, no food, nothing. We're in prison.
So this is how they're stopping more people from going to that area. They're just stopping them from leaving the city, which I would think is a crime, a large humanitarian crime, especially if they're saying that they don't have any money. But again, this is Al Jazeera doing the job of Roland Martin.
Here without anything, and the government does not help.
Some protesters are parents with children who say the city is overcrowded and food and shelter are becoming harder to find.
With my children, it's very difficult. There are no jobs, no food. We're living on the street. We have many problems. I have nothing. We need help.
Since the start of the year, the number of migrants arriving in southern Mexico has only grown, and so have tensions between them and authorities.
This cannot be happening. It's like we just came from Africa in chains, like modern-day slaves. In a democracy, everybody has to be free.
And to be clear, what they're using them as in their third world country is the same type of racism and white supremacy that goes on here. It gives Mexicans a nice sigh of relief to know that there's a class of Haitians in Mexico that they can look to as basically their servant class. So even though they're a bumfuck Mexican, you know what I'm saying, who's impoverished themselves, they can look to Haitians and say, Haitian, hey, you're lower than me. It's the same sort of thing that gives West Virginians a boost in confidence when they think about not being black, even though they deal with the same sort of impoverishment issues that parallel impoverishment or quasi in parallel impoverishment issues with descendants of American slaves, or at least let me retract that because I really don't want to necessarily put anybody on our level. But you see what I'm saying? On the policy level, on an incrementalist immediate policy level, there's a large amount of parallelisms. But at the same time, they'd rather deny that in search of some sort of superiority over us. So let's be clear. When he's saying that they're slaves, they actually are slaves when it comes down to Mexicans.
With shelters for migrants and asylum seekers already over capacity, many say their patience has run out.
Demonstrations like this one with hundreds of migrants blocking off traffic have become quite commonplace here in Tapachula. And local residents tell us that this is the worst migrant crisis the city has experienced in recent memory.
An estimated 40,000 migrants are currently stuck in Tapachula. Some have been here for months, and more continue to arrive every day.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see something.
I call President Lopez Obrador to stop being a puppet of the United States.
Hold on 1 second.
Stop being the guard dog of the United States, to follow Mexican law, and stop repressing the migrant population. Stop beating up migrants. Stop combating and treating migrants like criminals.
Despite the Mexican government's strategy to contain migrants in the southern part of the country, experts warn the impact on overall migrant numbers reaching the U.S. southern border is negligible. Instead, the policy of limiting their mobility has only turned the city of Tapachula into a pressure cooker, and tensions are ready to explode. Manuel Rapalo, Al Jazeera, Tapachula, Mexico.
So let's see where Tapachula is. It looks like it's a choke point.
This morning, a 24/7 mission on the Texas border. A group of migrants, most from Haiti.
Hold on 1 second. Looks like Al Jazeera has the best reporting on this issue. We can't trust Roland Martin to have very good reporting on this issue. It looks like Al Jazeera has the best reporting on this issue. That's quite hilarious. That's quite hilarious. Let's just go here. Excuse me. We'll go there. We'll go back there. But this is Tapachula right here. All right. So you would see that if you're from Costa Rica, Panama, if you're from all these areas, you're pretty much just taking a nice little way going straight up, right? And if they're saying they're passing through, more than likely they're just trying to go ahead and walk their way, which is kind of way. Let's just put this in perspective. To Del Rio. Holy fuck. 2,300 kilometers. I would assume that's what, 1,000 some odd miles? If you were walking it, 441 hours. So let's say you walked for 6 hours a day, 8 to 6 hours a day. You couldn't just keep on walking. You would have to stop and everything else. You're talking about maybe 2-3 months to walk that distance. Maybe walking some transportation if you were able to rustle up some money. This is what people are going through. And as you can see, that's Tapachula way down here. But these people were from, you heard Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, some cases Chile. This way the fuck down here. They walked from fucking Chile way the fuck down here in certain cases, all the way the fuck up here in certain cases. Not just I would assume not walk, maybe took buses, you know what I'm saying, saved up money and took public transit, you know what I'm saying? That's a part of it too. Not fully walking, but at the same time, that's their migration point, their path. And what their plan is to just ship all them bastards right back to Haiti. But again, Roland Martin ain't gonna say a goddamn word about it. So let's go to another.
This is how earthquake aid is
white Asian. I have to be honest. Al Jazeera, you're a white Asian organization.
with a heavily armed
police
escort.
This is where they want to ship them back to.
Aid is moving in Haiti. Convoys heading out from Port-au-Prince with a heavily armed police escort. They need it. Security is one of the biggest concerns here. Gangs have been running rampant for years, and Haiti's recent political turmoil has only made things worse. Travelling the only road to the disaster zone can feel like running a gauntlet, mostly because the aid agency trucks have to go through the Martissant neighbourhood.
Now we got the audio shit happening.
It's turned into a bloody battle.
You make sure the audio is working.
About a month ago, the gangs here actually kicked the police.
YouTube likes to play games.
You can see the bullet holes here in the police station.
Just a week ago, there's no way we could have been here. Kidnappings and killings were constant. But now that's changed, if only temporarily.
This is the stretch of road that the aid organisations have been especially worried about here in the district of Martissant. But there's something new here. Our producer, Jeremy Dupont, actually went to speak to one of the gang leaders who confirmed to him that they have made peace, the two groups fighting over this territory, and they're doing that to allow aid through. As you can see, the traffic is picking up again in a way that it hasn't done for months.
Who knows how reliable or long-lasting that peace will be, but it's not just those two gangs making positive noises. The leader of a major coalition of armed groups, the G9, has hailed their truce and also called for others to give help.
We know actually that the victims need water, need food, that they need sanitary kits. Do your best to help. Your help will be very appreciated. What we want is to help our brothers and sisters that are in a very difficult situation after the earthquake. That's why we say better to give little than nothing.
But that doesn't mean all is now safe for aid organisations. Tim Callaghan, who leads the USA Disaster Response Team, says it's the last mile distribution in the earthquake zone itself which is tough.
If you show up with a truck full of food and you don't have a plan, you haven't coordinated that with the local authorities or the Haitian National Police, you can see some things. It may, where people will surround the truck, because again, what I've seen so far is that most people just want help. They want it quickly.
In the last week, aid trucks have been ransacked and looted. Aid workers say the situation can be chaotic and dangerous on the ground. But in rough, makeshift camps across the affected area, there's still great need.
We are here with our children, but we need to feed them. We need food and water. We need medication. And now we use this place as a shelter. So we need to feed our children ourselves.
And now they want to ship all those people in Del Rio back there.
Help that international organisations and the government can bring. It's a critical point for the earthquake relief effort. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Port-au-Prince.
Now, again, when they ship Mexicans back to Mexico, Mexico is not a failed state. It's a narco state, all right? But it's not necessarily a failed state, right? When they ship those Haitians back to Haiti, that's the type of shit that they're shipping them back to. There's no jobs for them to get like there were in Mexico or Chile or Guatemala or Honduras or Panama or Costa Rica, all those areas that they came from, even though those areas were basically treating them like slaves. At least there was some way, with the exception of that policy of trapping them off in the city, which is definitely a problem humanitarian in a humanitarian way. And now you can sort of see what I was just talking about when they said, well, Mexico seems to have stopped the flow of those migrants. Well, that's the type of shit that they're doing in Mexico in order to stop the flow of those migrants. But when they say that they're going to ship them back to Mexico, that's the area that they're shipping them back to. They're shipping them back to an area where there's at least some levels of sustainability. Back to Haiti, a disaster area, literally a disaster area. But who cares? Who cares, right? And again, Roland Martin, these your people, and you ain't saying a goddamn word. Now, I keep on bringing this shit up, and I'm probably going to wait 2 days or 3 days and bring it up again. Let me do something else while we're here, because I want to add this to the people who have decided to watch up to this point. Let's go ahead and go here. Hold on 1 second. Just 1 second. Here we go. So let's come over here to Zillow and just remind ourselves once again that the Hidden History Museum land is still for sale. Just want to keep that watch going. The Hidden History land is still for sale. We're waiting for it to be purchased. We're waiting, people. We're waiting for it to be purchased. It's still for sale. At the end of the day, I think I think I'm going to do a round robin of all these people, make sure that I fully summarize them to the point where I would have to basically start repeating myself in order to do a further analysis. And then when I get to that point, move on to the next person. And then once I've done that, I think I'm probably just going to leave that material out there, move on to another channel or move on to another platform, and then basically start my level of advocacy at that point, right? Using basically all of the critiques. There we go again. You see the audio. You like playing games with the audio. That's why I have the audio up. Now it's saying that there's 0 kilobytes with the audio, even though you can see the even though you can see the audio levels and the connection rate. Hold on. There we go. Just let that roll for a second. Let me make sure. Hold on. Okay. So the audio basically it comes up as stream's current bitrate is 0 is lower than the bitrate of 128. It's way random that that happens. That comes through. But when that happened before, what YouTube basically did was use it as an opportunity to completely mute my audio for a video after like the 30-minute mark. So that's why you see the audio levels as well as the connection rate on my videos now in order for that to be exposed, right? So you can say or see that none of that shit is on my side. But anyways, guys, thank you for putting in some time to listen to what I have to say on the subjects. Just keep in mind and keep your critical thinking caps on and realize that these people, even Irami Exposes, is out to basically, for the most part, use you for their goals. And try your best to use a large amount of discernment when information is dispersed. Right? Try your best to use as much discernment as possible, and don't just assume that these people actually have your best interest, because in many cases they don't. All right. Anyways,